Hi guys, Nomis here. Welcome back to Nomishavn for episode number 32. In today's video, I will finish the last parts left unbuilt in Bjorgvin to complete the district. The main build is this concert hall with a plaza around it and some more dense hillside neighbourhoods with a church at the top. But first, I'll go back to complete the unbuilt parts around the bridge from last episode. There's always been this dam over here that came with the map that has pretty much sustained the entire city with electricity, and still does. And like this, as it is kind of realistic, considering this is a Scandinavian city, and Norway, for example, has the vast majority of their electricity coming from hydro power plants. To complete this area though, I wanted to build some infrastructure around the dam so that it looks more realistic. A substation that distributes power out to the city from the hydro plant. Around the substation, I just placed some parking lots and a few industrial buildings, which I imagine is where people working at the power plant are situated. Out from the substation, I drag out those huge high voltage lines through the forest and stop them at a spot where I placed a transformer station, and imagine the power lines are underground from here on out. Along where the high voltage lines run, I need to trim off the forest so trees won't clash with the lines, and then just cover the ground with tons of overgrowth. There's a switchback road that goes up to cross above the dam, and I imagine there used to be a small scale farm here, which now is only a cozy, tucked away family home that sits at the edge of the city. So I just have a nice house and some farm buildings, and the land around is just forest now, and it's no longer being used for farming, but it's still probably owned by the family living in this house, hence why it's not developed further. Right now, the areas around the roundabout by the Bjorgvin Bridge are very disconnected by the roundabout itself and the highways feeding into it. To fix this, I make these underpasses by sinking down a road under them and decorating with retaining walls and these nice underpass supports props from the workshop. There was a small awkward spot between two underpasses, so I just snuck in a little gas station there and created a strict border into the forest with some overgrowth. After everything is connected, I fill it out with mostly residential buildings. This is the edge of the district, and there are plenty of shops around where built last time right by the bridge. Mostly I use the same architecture, but taking around the bridge approach, I use some Stockholm buildings I haven't used before. I'll probably use those elsewhere as well, they are just looking perfect. Next up, I'm finishing the Bjorgvin Bridge promenade, which I started on last episode. Just using the same surfaces. And I won't have more bars and markets over at this end. Just finishing it off with a lot of planters and places to sit. I imagine if you've been walking around the markets, having drinks at the outdoor bars, you can walk a little further along the promenade and find a quiet spot to sit down and enjoy the waterfront. What I consider the main build for this episode is this large plaza that sits around a huge concert hall. The asset I use is the Hydroelectric from Prague, I believe. I don't have a lot of lore for this place, but since we are very close to the cultural area with the theatre park I built a few episodes ago, it made perfect sense to have more big and important cultural buildings. Especially since this is a flat area right before we go into the hillside. If you look at many historical city centers around Europe, you have these large areas of extremely packed together buildings that are suddenly broken up with very open areas, a lot of time sitting around important buildings. And this is the vibe I want to create here. To create the plaza, I use a square shape from procedural objects and apply a texture to it, something I've seen the great Jeremy Thunder on YouTube do a lot of times. I got this great mossy cobblestone texture from a dear friend, Hooked on Funk. Thanks a lot for this, man. Filling out the plaza further, I apply a golden black marble texture to some circles and place them all around, with some planter and bench designs. Later I remove some of them in the middle, because I wanted to create a custom fountain. Once again in procedural objects, I use a mix of cubes and stairs that I apply a marble texture to, then build out this rectangle shaped fountain structure with stairs all around, with a nice statue in the middle to attract people. And to make it look like an actual fountain, I plop these water surface props on top, change the marble texture on the bottom to a more bluish color, and then I use the water jet props and some lights, which always just looks great. This next part is a very repetitive process, so I only include the small parts of it in the video. To fill out the hillside, I start with just plopping down every single building I'd like to use here. That allows me to just create city blocks with moving them around and adjusting the heights to align with the slopes. Connecting between the roads, I draw a lot of narrow paths, which I upgrade to invisible later on, and use this with IMT to fill out the tile surfaces. The terrain got really bumpy again after upgrading to the invisible paths, so I had to use terraforming networks to smooth it all out again. Bit of a tedious process, but the end result is really worth it. At the top of the hill, I thought to myself, it's been a while since I built a church. So I flattened out the rest of the area and plopped down a church. Using IMT, I covered the terrain gaps with some brick walls and tons of ivy. I'll come back later to decorate the plaza area with some tiles, fountains and planters, and it ends up looking quite nice. So that is it for today's build, guys. The district of Bjorgvin is pretty much all filled out, except for an area up in the mountainside, which I'm saving for a little mini build when I feel like doing it. I really hope you enjoyed the build if you watched this far. Likes, comments and subscribes are greatly appreciated as always, and will help me grow the channel. I also do have a Patreon now, just in case you wish to support me further. Anyways, until next time, have a gracious day, and stay tuned for some cinematics.